Hello and thanks for joining us. We're starting at the most visited museum in the world, Paris's Louvre. It's been announced that ticket prices are going up by 30% to €22. Jenny Shin looks at the question, are we moving away from accessible culture for all?
With almost 9 million visitors in 2023, the Louvre is the most visited museum in the world, and now one of the priciest too. In its first price hike in 7 years, tickets are going up 30%, from 17 to €22. Many fear this will put visitors off.
It's a shame because for a family of 4, it's almost €100 to get in.
While others say it's a price they're willing to pay.
Okay, it's a lot of money, especially if you go a few days, need a few days to get here. But yeah, I think it's worth it.
The museum says the move is due to rising energy costs, but it's also to accommodate a new flagship policy.
The
Louvre's new president, Laurence Descartes, wants to welcome visitors in a more serene environment by capping daily admissions at 30,000 visitors. Hence why the management has decided to bump up the price.
The museum remains free for young people, teachers and the unemployed. But inflation is rife in the cultural sector, with the Palace of Versailles, the Picasso Museum and the Arc de Triomphe also upping the price of entry. The same year, the Olympic Games are expected to bring 15 million tourists to the city.
Next, many people who have a fantasy of Paris today will conjure up images of his work. The Art Nouveau artist Alphonse Mucha was a 19th century graphic designer who defined the city's romantic aesthetic. A magnificent new exhibition at the Hôtel de Caumont in the south of France sheds new light on the work of the Czech painter. He was known as the king of Parisian pastels, who designed for French actor Pierre Bonnard to promote her Paris plays, as Emerald Maxwell reports.
Women depicted as fairy-like creatures, adorned with flower crowns and hair that unfurls like vines. With his posters 130 years ago, Alphonse Mucha created an original style and a new, offbeat type of woman. It was the winter of 1894 when Mucha, a hyperactive artist with not a moment to lose, reinvented the theatre poster. Before him, they looked like this. Small formats, not very colourful, with minimalist depictions of women. Mucha, on the other hand, designed a sublime feminine figure. He doubled the size of the classic poster, up to 2 meters tall, and had these life-size paper women posted around the streets of Paris. To make them more convincing, he had actresses or studio models pose before transforming them into divine flower women. The public at the time couldn't get enough.
There was a real infatuation with his style, which was very popular because Mucha was looking for an accessible form of beauty. So he designed seductive women in languid poses who succeed in seducing spectators.
With a direct or sidelong glance, a provocative arch, or an enticing posture, Mucha foreshadowed by several decades the sexy pin-up of the 1960s. His sophisticated graphics have also left an impression on comic books and manga artists in Japan. And Mucha's timelessly beautiful Art Nouveau women continue to inspire artists all over the world.
Now to a new film that paints a beautiful portrait of French artist Pierre Bonnard and his muse. Bonnard, Pierre and Marthe retraces the life of one of France's great painters. Jean-Émile Jamin tells us more about this colourful creator.
He's regarded as one of the greatest painters of the 20th century. Yet for years, Pierre Bonnard had disappeared from the radar. That was until very recently, when a film was released dedicated to his life, starring Cécile de France and Vincent Macaigne. Now museum exhibitions are hosting his works with his art in prestigious publications. So why is Pierre Bonnard being rediscovered as a visionary? In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, he was a painter out of step with his time. Bonnard was certainly not an impressionist like his friend Claude Monet. and even less academic, as was the fashion at the time in trendy galleries. Plump nymphs and immaculate skin were not his thing. Instead, he had Marthe, his wife and his muse, and he showcased her body from every angle. Undressed or clothed, Marthe in the bathroom, immersed in a bathtub, Marthe in the red dining room, with the likeness of her dog. Bonnard's world was one of everyday life and everyday scenes, which are ultimately universal.
Tout est en mouvement chez Bonnard et tout.
With Bonnard, everything is fluid. It's all about life as we see it today. He shows the same experiences we have today with our friends, family, and pets.
Behind his peaceful demeanor, Pierre Bonnard hid his hand well. With his powerful colors and absence of perspective, he was way ahead of his time. Some even compare his paintings to those of the flamboyant Mark Rothko, known also today as a visionary, and whose work is currently on display at the Louis Vuitton Foundation in Paris.
From a replica of Queen Elizabeth II's coronation gown to a reproduction of the Gold State coach, costumes, props and sets from the award-winning drama The Crown are on display in London before going under the hammer. More than 450 objects from the Netflix show are at Bonhams ahead of their auction in February. Among the items on display are costumes worn by the main characters. They include the so-called revenge dress worn by Elizabeth Debicki, who portrayed the late Princess Diana in the series.
So this is probably one of the top lots in the sale. It's Diana's revenge dress, as worn by Elizabeth Debicki. And there's lots of great stories around the revenge dress. So famously, Diana wore it in 1994, the same week that the story of Charles and Camilla's affair came out in the press. I mean, I would love a celebrity to buy it and then have their own revenge dress moment.
And Diana's so-called revenge dress is expected to sell for between £8,000 and £12,000. Proceeds from the auction will fund scholarships for film students. The hit show wrapped up last month after 6 seasons, during which actors Claire Foy, Olivia Colman and Imelda Staunton portrayed the Queen at different stages of her life. Now we'll leave you with the new True Detective series starring Jodie Foster. The anthology series is back for its 4th outing, titled True Detective Night Country. Reviews have been positive, some going so far as to hail it as good as the hugely acclaimed first season, which aired in 2014 with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. We'll let you decide. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Half the people who live here have got a reason to silence Annie Kay.
I need to do this one thing.
Don't lie to me.
I'm fixing it.
Blood is blood, Peter. You need to get this shit under control.
You're still a fucking mess.
This connects everything. We are this close.
That night out on the ice, you saw something.
I saw nothing.
You're a liar.